Terry Stotts, Terry, Tiki, and Tierney. How are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing okay, man. It's been back and forth for you guys. What are you now? I believe one game out of the eighth spot. I guess as a jump off point, I know there's been a lot of swings up and down this season. Do you like where your team's at right now?
Well, obviously, I wish we had a few more wins. I wish we had, but we've been playing better basketball. We won 4 out of 5 on the road just recently, and at least put us back into the race for the eighth spot. So, it has been an up and down season. We haven't necessarily played the way we had hoped to for most of the season, but the goal is getting into the playoffs, and we're in position to do that.
Yeah, March has been good to you guys. You guys won 9 of I think 12 or so in March so far. But the question becomes, when you get in, if you get in, you're able to pull in the 8th spot. You get faced off against the Warriors. I mean, it's almost like a reward or a penalty for getting the reward of getting to the postseason. When you think about that, is there more of an incentive to try to go even higher?
Well, the reality is that we're not going to get to 7. The gap is too big between 7 and 8, but you always want to get as high as you can. But we want to get in the A spot, and whoever it is, it could be Golden State, it could be San Antonio. I know they play each other again one more time, and once you get in the playoffs, you never know. We played Golden State a very competitive series last year when they won 73 games, and
Yep.
You just don't know. When you get to the playoffs and matchups and injuries and get a few bounces, you never know.
Yeah, listen, and I know you know this, Terry, but for those who might just catch the highlights or watch the periodic Portland game, listen, you guys can score, never an issue, put up a lot of points. Your backcourt obviously fuels you. I think you guys are a pretty good rebounding team, and obviously the one weakness that jumps out is stopping people. And a lot of teams have that issue in the NBA. And I wonder, is it a personnel thing, or is it an attention to detail thing, or just an energy thing on the part of the players? I know every year is different, but I felt like last year you guys were a little bit better in that department. Why is this year different?
Well, it's a good question. I think part of it's personnel. I think part of it is attention to detail. I think a lot of it is attention to detail because I think defense is a talent. I think there are players who are better defensively than others, just like offense is a talent. But I also believe that the best defensive players are usually experienced players, and they usually are able to anticipate things ahead of time. And so whether it's attention to detail because of your experience or that you're just that focused on every possession has a big part in defense in the NBA. If you look at the best defensive teams in the league, generally they're more experienced teams. So I do think it takes time to learn it and become better at it. And as far as energy, I think there are a lot of young teams that have a lot of energy but aren't necessarily productive on the defensive end. So
That's fair.
Last year we got better the second half of the season. We had a really good stretch. We were probably about 28th or 29th in defense for the first 30 games, and then we had a 20-game stretch where we were in the top 10. And then it could have been the schedule, but then we dropped back off. I think over the last 20 games, we've probably been 20th or something like that. So we've been inconsistent, and to be honest, that's been our biggest challenge all year, whether it's offensively or defensively or playing with the lead, is playing consistently.
Yeah, and your point about youthful energy, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a good thing, but if you don't know how to harness it, and it's just frenetic, and you're running all over the place without attention to principles or diligence, if you will. I get it. I can see why that could be an issue. Terry Stotts, head coach of Portland, with us, and he's, of course, on Tiki and Tierney.
Hey, Terry, I know this isn't an issue for you because your team is relatively young. I think 6 years experience is the oldest player on your team. But I think one of the issues that's been discussed significantly around the league is resting players and giving them, quote, maintenance days. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I think it's a difficult topic, and really the issue has really been surrounded by 3 or 4 or 5 teams with a handful of marquee players. Most of us can't afford to rest our best players. Most of us are trying to get every win that we can, and it comes down to just a few teams who are resting players because they have championship aspirations, and sometimes they're older players. For us, we do have the youngest We have the youngest team in the league. We don't have a player that's older than 28.
Mm-hmm.
All our guys want to play, so it really hasn't been an issue for us. I suspect that the league is going to address it sometime this summer. I don't know what the answer is because I think there are valid points on both sides. I think the coaches and the franchises are doing what they think is in the best interest of their team and their players. Obviously, there's the business aspect with the television, especially when you have a televised game. You have the fan base, the league office. So there are a lot of very valid points, and I don't know what the solution is. I just know that times have changed. I was just watching you may have been watching the Knicks Utah game the other day and a couple days ago, and they were interviewing John Stockton, who played 82 games, 17 out of his 19 years,
That's insane.
which was
unbelievable.
just amazing.
Yeah.
And I think Karl Malone did basically the same thing. It was a different time, and I'm not saying that was right or wrong. It's just different, and I do think that they need to come up with some type of solution that meets everybody's needs.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. If you're coaching and you are coaching, but let's say the Cleveland Cavaliers come to town, right? So you're not going there; they're coming to you
for the only time.
Yeah, the only
year.
time. And LeBron sits down. Do you take that as an affront? Like this game isn't important to them? I mean, how would you view that as a coach?
Probably happy.
I view it as I'd probably say, yeah, get your resume.
You too, Kyrie. You look a little fatigued.
But you know what I'm getting at. You know what I mean? Not obviously from a win-loss standpoint.
I would not take it personally. Like I said, I think teams do what's in the best interest of their franchise, and regardless of the opponent, especially a team like Cleveland, who's been to the finals 2 straight years, they're doing what they think they need to do to win a championship. And I would not take it personally because it wouldn't be about me or my team. It would be more about them.
Mm-hmm. Terry Stotts, Blazers head coach, with us here on Tiki and Tierney. You know, I like to watch NBA TV quite a bit, and I think I like a lot of the people they have on. You know, Isaiah Thomas, one of the greatest players of all time, and he's, you know, he jumps out, obviously. And some other guy, Dennis Scott, we had on the show, and Shaq and C-Webb, Kenny Smith, the whole crew, you know them. And you're a little bit older than a guy like Shaq and C-Webb, but they're certainly old school. You're old school. I believe you're in your late 50s. It's got to be tough, Coach, where there's, on some level, you almost have to completely recalibrate what you know, because if you don't do that slightly in terms of rest, in terms of the modern athlete and everything that comes with it, social media, etc., you'll be a dinosaur, and you almost won't be very employable. How much have you had to change the way you think and deploy some of your tactics?
To a degree. We have a sports science department, a health and performance department, and they take metrics of the players' health and where they are with their bodies, and I listen to what they say as far as, you know, old school is you practice more. Rest has certainly become a very important issue for us. We don't rest our players in games, but you know, a day like today, we're not going to do very much with the players who played last night. We got a back-to-back coming up. We didn't do much. We had a day in between Milwaukee and the Knicks game. We did very little with the 8 players who played in the Milwaukee game. So rest is, you know, you can be old school, but, you know, everybody has, Tiki, you know, the days of August football in Oklahoma with 3-a-days with no water.
Yeah, they don't do those anymore, though, Coach.
Exactly. So that's the point is, you know, I think it is in the best interest of the athlete, and with all the science and what we have, I think it is important to recognize that. But at the same time, as a coach, I think the mental aspect of it, just fighting through some adversity, fighting through some pain, pushing yourself, is part of being a professional athlete. And to be honest, I think the athletes appreciate that. I think the athletes like to push themselves and see what they can do. So there is a little yin and yang that goes on with that.
Yeah, no, I love the science that athletes are starting to embrace. Like, you don't have to be a medical student or have grown up understanding your body to realize that science is making it easier to be an athlete or better to be an athlete now than it used to be. I mean,
I think it also complicates some things, though.
A
For the
little
front,
bit.
when not that there's no value, there's incredible value for science. You'd be foolish not to use it. But when science begins, and same with the advanced metrics and the sabermetrics, when that begins to almost have the same kind of juice
Yeah.
that decision makers
Yeah.
have, it could be a little
Do-
bit of a problem,
do you
right,
see
Coach?
do you see that ever getting like paralyzing to some of these guys? Like it's too much for them to think about. You know, they just want to go play ball type of thing.
Well, they do, and I will say this, and Tiki, you know this as Brandon. I don't know your background as well, but I
That's
know
not
Tiki
much.
but you know, the athletes are special, and they got to be, especially professional athletes, got to be there because of their will and their strength and their ability. And the mental component, that's the one thing whether it's sports science or the analytics or things like that, is I think they take out the human equation and the mental aspect and the emotional aspect, which is a big factor
Yeah, of course.
what makes professional athletes so special.
Completely agree with you.
Terry, if I was an athlete, I would have an opinion on that, but that's where I'll let Tiki respond for the show. Hey, Coach, good luck. Final week and a half, whatever it is, couple of weeks here. And by the way, at least throw me a bone. I'm a diehard Knick fan. I know he didn't shoot the rock well last night. Give me 15 pounds on Porzingis. How good is he going to be down the road? What do you think?
Well, he's only going to get better. I mean, he is so skilled. He's so versatile. There's so many things he can do. I think the challenge for him is to, he's going to have to define his game because he's one of those guys who is so good at everything that I'm anxious to see where his career is going to go because of all the things that he can do.
Yep.
And that's the exciting thing about a young player like that is to just watch his growth and see where his game takes him.
I think he should be at the 5, but I hear you. The positional, they've got to commit to that at some point. I get you. Hey, Terry, really good catching up. It's been a while. And by the way, good job smacking around George Karl when he tried to light up Damian Lillard. Verbally smack around, of course. And I know you got a lot of respect for George, but he was out of line, and I thought you handled that very well. I wanted to tell you that.
Thank you very much.